Out of Halifax this hour, Canada's premiers begin 2 days of official talks this morning. This is their annual summer meeting to discuss key issues like healthcare, housing, and the cost of living. And they are already sending a clear message to Ottawa. Catherine Cullen joins us live from Halifax. So, Catherine, what are the premiers telling the federal government ahead of their meeting?
Well, Juanita, I think the best way to understand this is to do a little exercise in translation from political politesse to real talk. So here is the letter that host Premier Nova Scotia's Tim Houston sent to the Prime Minister in advance of this meeting. It says, encouraging things like more convinced than ever of the value of working together. We want to be in a true partnership with you. And importantly, to revive the collaborative spirit of the Federation, we urge the federal government to refrain from unilateral actions in areas of provincial and territorial jurisdiction, going on to list healthcare, education, and housing. So what does that really mean? It means stay in your lane, get off my lawn, essentially. And we did get a little bit more clarity, I will say, from some of the premiers in terms of perhaps some of the frustration they might be feeling about what they perceive as federal incursion into their territory as they were arriving for meetings yesterday. Let's have a listen.
Something that is coming from all premiers. It doesn't make sense. Every budget, every federal budget, we see more and more new programs in provincial jurisdictions. Enough is enough.
I think we all would love for the federal government to focus on its areas of jurisdiction. We would really love to see them focus on those things that are economy building, productivity building, and stop trying to micromanage our affairs.
And it's interesting, I did ask Premier Smith, you look at a program like dental care, it is more services available for Canadians, pharmacare, some prescription drugs. Ultimately, what is the problem here? She said she feels there's concern that there's overlap, there's confusion in some cases, and also that more sort of in a more writ large kind of way, that the premiers are worried that they might be on the hook for some of these programs if there is not enough federal money going forward. So some of that pushback, obviously the premiers wanting a bigger say in how the federal government is spending on some of the areas that they consider priorities. I will say, though, Juanita, also several premiers yesterday talking about areas such as immigration, where they would like to see more federal money flowing to their province.
Okay, and what are some of the other big issues the premiers are discussing over the next 2 days?
Well, they're talking about healthcare this morning in a meeting with nurses groups. They're actually just wrapping up that breakfast right now. They're going to come up, they're going to head behind those closed doors behind me, talk about a variety of topics: infrastructure, housing, affordability, the state of the Federation, which is where you're going to see some of that pushback on the federal government. Canada-U.S. relations also expected to be an important topic over the course of the next 2 days, and some things that aren't necessarily clearly on the agenda. We know, for instance, that British Columbia's premier has talked about joining in the lawsuit that Newfoundland and Labrador has put forward, trying to change the equalization formula. He said that he expects to have news by the end of this meeting about whether or not BC will be on side with that. Again, I mentioned immigration. Quebec's premier says he's been talking to other premiers trying to figure out if some other provinces might be willing to take some of the asylum seekers who are in Quebec at this point, as Quebec tries to deal with a great number of asylum seekers with a goal of reducing the number they're taking by half. So a lot going on behind those closed doors, a lot of topics to cover over the next couple of days. Juanita?
All right, and we'll be listening in for those today. Thank you so much, Catherine.